So earlier today, we've talked about how technology is changing our reality. But it's not only changing our reality, but also the way we perceive reality. Virtual reality has been with us since before the dot-com bubble, but the world wasn't ready for it back then. Today, side by side with augmented reality technology, these things allow us to reshape the way we see the world with giant companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and others. We already know that this is something that is going to transform our digital experience in the next decade. To understand this world a little better, and especially the role Israel plays in this revolution, I would like to invite on stage our next panel.
But wait. First of all, thank you for the judges. We forgot them on stage. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to invite our next panel. Leading the panel is Senior VP of Research, Games and Digital at Interpret, Michael Kai, and one of the leading gaming analysts in the world. I would also like to invite on stage Emil Alon, CEO of Pebbles, which was recently acquired by Oculus Rift and Facebook, one of the leading VR companies in the world. Bendov, CEO of Sidekick Games, one of the leading AR, VR games makers in the world, and Yoav Hoshen, co-founder and VP Bizdev at Beyond Verbal and Superb Reality.
All right, super excited to be here. Before we start the panel, let me take a selfie first, Alon style. Well, I lost my voice a little bit. I went to the Casual Connect party last night. You Israelis know how to party, for sure. And I thought that was real. It was neither virtual nor augmented. But I think that's the topic for today. So we're going to talk about the marketplace for augmented and virtual reality. We know it's a hot topic, and in the US, you have conferences almost every other week covering this topic. And apparently, it's a hot topic here in Israel as well. But before we start the questions, why don't we go around the couch here and then introduce yourself briefly, like what does your company or yourself do in the virtual reality or augmented reality space? Just a couple of words. Why don't we start with you, Emil?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. As the CEO of Pebbles, Pebbles interfaces initially started as a new type of gesture recognition sensor, and identified the growing trend of the VR and AR. We shifted, and this was part of the success eventually, shifted our efforts to match the requirement, especially for the virtual reality headset, in order to eventually introduce the hands and any type of human parts that will eventually, in a very high resolution, in ability to do an accurate interaction with the virtual object, as in real life. Our main focus initiated on the hands itself, to have almost perfect hands of the user introduced into the VR realm, so you can actually interact very naturally with any type of virtual object that is displayed out there. So this was the actual reason that the company eventually was bought by Oculus Rift.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
I actually saw some of the videos online. It was pretty impressive.
Thank you very much.
Next guy, who's my next door neighbor in Irvine and a longtime industry friend.
Thank you. I'm Bendov. I'm running Sidekick Games. Since 2010, Sidekick has been working with technology leaders to create games that show our partners' capabilities. So whether it was motion control, back in the day, we've created games for PrimeSense. And over the last 2 years, we've been focusing a lot of our efforts around AR and VR. And today, we're fueling the mobile VR market with fun games across the board. We've been publishing about 5 games now on Gear VR, Cardboard, and our plan is to bring about 100 games to this market in the next 3 years.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yoav Hoshen. I'm a co-founder of Beyond Verbal, who is doing emotions analytics based on voice intonations, of Water.io, who are doing smart cup for disposable water bottles, IoT and food tech industry that measures how much people drink, and Superb Reality, who is doing virtual and augmented reality technology, and we try in that company to solve some complicated technology problems about computer vision that has with those devices, mainly about the way you see the world, you capture other objects, and how you control them.
Very interesting. So a couple of words about myself. I'm Michael Tsai, and I ran the video game and digital practice at Interpret. We do a lot of research and consulting for the AAA game publishers as well as mobile game publishers in the world. Before we start the Q&A, raise your hand if you are actually involved in AR, VR from the audience. Okay, so we have quite a few here as well. Now, as I mentioned earlier, definitely it's a very hot market. What's really driving the market? Why is there so much attention on AR, VR these days?
So, as always, people are looking for the next big thing, the next big computational platform, change of paradigm, insert new type of content, and mainly experience. Everything is about experience. Everything, as all of us know, is about changing our life in a way we are interacting with others, we're interacting with devices. So I think if you take all these metrics, VR definitely addresses all those motivation and all those natural tendency of evolution. It's very difficult to actually generate the ultimate experience for VR, and one of the most appealing parts of the technology, as I see it, is the asymptote is basically the matrix. Okay, it's basically to create any type of reality you want, taking aside, of course, the haptics and the actual body sensation. This is a different topic, very interesting opportunity for entrepreneurs that are sitting and hearing this. But of course, the visual cues, the auditory cues, mainly were solved already on amazing type of content and demos that we're all going to witness very soon. Let's say first Q1 of 2016 or Q2 of 2016, we'll see the first solutions. Mind-boggling. Okay, basically mind-boggling for someone who didn't experience it. Stay tuned because it's really amazing. So the premise is amazing. Okay, it's something definitely to look forward, and definitely for all the entrepreneurs to know the basic concept, the basic requirement in order to develop the type of experience. Issues or challenges are varies from computational image recognition problem, image reconstruction, sensors, and how to actually reconstruct the object or integrate into the physical realm. So many aspects that are very challenging in the initial steps of developing the technology. So there's amazing room for entrepreneurship and inventions and all the good stuff. And again, it's interesting because it's just starting, basically.
Right. That's why it's so exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new platform. The concept is not new. You know, we've seen the movies and read books, but the technology has come to age, right, over the last few years.
Right.
And people are excited about this as a new platform.
And Yoav, what drew you to this space?
So I think you can see both consumer as well as enterprises looking at what we can benefit from that new platform. So mobile phone, you know, iPhone was released in 2008. Today we can't live without it. There are millions of ideas that running as applications and other ideas on that platform without knowing when it was invented what will be all those use cases. So we already see today many use cases that people try to do with the fact that you wear something on your face that can either replace the reality that you look at or add content, objects, and information to the reality. So I guess the best way to look at it is everything we do in other platforms, like content, education, business, and so gaming, of course, and so on. And in addition, things that can be done only with that platforms because of the new dimension that is created for the user as a reality. So as an example, there was a demo that was presented last week in one of the universities. using two HoloLenses, the platform coming from Microsoft, and allowing new kind of communication in such a way that when both users wearing the glasses and shake each other's hand, they actually see kind of sparklings going from their hands. So this is an example of a type of usage. Of course, it's not. I don't think people will buy for that the platform, but it just to show the fact that everything we do in life will be able to extend that by adding information.
Let's quickly touch on those use cases. I mean, gaming has been talked about a lot, and we know there are some challenges which we'll talk about later. But outside of gaming, I think tourism is another one. Porn, always driving technology everywhere. And then media. What else? What are the key use cases from your perspective?
So I think also all the aspect of industrial design and services might benefit a lot from this type of augmented or virtual reality. Definitely augmented. Take the use case of an engineer or even a household coming into a machine, and definitely with those type of head-mount device can actually get the instruction how to replace things, how to fix things, etc. Because you simply get the digital information overlaid on top of every type of device. Tourism you mentioned, I think it's very straightforward and totally verbalized by all the big Mike Zuckerberg and all the big guys who's maneuvering this out there. But frankly to say, it's very difficult. Of course, gaming is out there already, so this will be the initial driver. But I think what is good in this type of technology, like what it was in the mobile as a revolution, I definitely see it as something that even might be a bigger step forward, or who knows. But it's very difficult to guess. Okay, what will be really the thing that will make it a huge magnitude for the consumer. But I think tourism and industrial design and services is on the top list.
Anything else you want to add?
I mean, games, obviously, I'm invested in that, but always a safe bet is communication. And the emotional layer that is on top of that, coming out of that type of screen, is very, very beneficial, I want to say, for communication. And the other market is very much, as you said, I think real estate. I've already seen some great application here in Israel. I think Autodesk is doing some stuff. I think that would be a major short-term, quick, low-hanging fruit driver for this industry.
Okay, Yoav, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think things like medical health and stuff like that will, and Emil mentioned one example of this about technicians. Everything that people do, and during their job, they need today to look at screens or look at the mobile phones and retrieve more information. They would be able to do that, to get that information directly to their screens or eyes without the need to hold any other device. So even by freeing both hands to do what they need to do with the hands and get the information and communication in real time directly into the glasses.
Now, Jason Rubin, who's the worldwide game studio head for Oculus and Facebook, and he's in charge of kind of developing all the new games and content for the platform. He said, with virtual reality, we need to pretty much relearn how you make games, right? I mean, what are the challenges? It's not simple, right? Are there any other technology barriers that remain to be solved right now before we can actually develop really high-quality content? So
I guess everybody heard about what is called the sense of presence. Okay, one of the major challenges or the major goal everybody aspires to is to create the right sense of presence of the user into the VR realm. Because we know everyone, for example, take the 3D movie, the cinematic 3D. You reach a saturation very high. So in the first 5 minutes, it's amazing. Okay, and then it's all about the movie, whether the movie is good or not. Okay, technology is only the background of it. Okay, it gives the wow factor. So the fear, of course, is the VR will be a 5 minutes type of hype, and then, okay, what is the right content? What is the right experience? What is the right type of sense of presence of the user that it can actually immerse into the virtual environment? So if I cannot touch, if I cannot feel, if I cannot be afraid of what is going on, it will be very difficult to actually create the right type of immersive experience for the user. So trying from 2D to 3D, it's totally different challenge. For example, if the user turn around and there's always nothing out there, so it will not be interesting anymore. So you are not a 3D anymore. Okay, so you are maybe 180 degrees. So it has to have some kind of meaning to look around you, to touch, to experience things, to get the surprises out there. And of course, there are some technical challenges that I'm personally involved in. For example, how you transform, how you walk into VR. It sounds maybe something trivial, but yeah, how you walk. Do you do a hand gesture? You create some kind of a treadmill? How you walk? So some of the content, I'm sure you've seen so many and maybe contribute to this kind of question. For example, simply transform. Okay, you simply transform yourself from one point to another to solve this question. So many, we can talk about 1 hour about the challenges there, but there are many, definitely.
Yeah, I had some first-hand experience with that. I was playing with a demo 2 weeks ago, and I was kind of riding a cycling machine and wearing Oculus Rift and pretending I was flying a horse. And that's like the game. And then when I landed, I didn't feel anything. It felt so weird. Guy, you guys are actually making games now. I mean, what are the challenges you actually ran into?
Well, overall, the user experience is new. It's not just a small screen or a bigger screen. It is a 360 screen that plays with your mind. Technically, to get to a good experience, one element is very high and consistent frame rate that allows your mind to get really immersed in that environment. That's actually a big thing. It's definitely in games where you need to process 3D in real time. There is the entire element of interfaces, right? Holding a controller, not holding any controller at all, or using the power of image processing to figure out your hands and your body in that environment. And overall, even at the storytelling level, using the space around you, using your environment around you as part of creating the game, almost on a creative level, is a different challenge because it is, a totally different platform than what we've been using the last few decades.
Right. Anything you want to add, Yoav?
Yeah, in addition to the list that my friends here put, which covers almost all the challenges that, but I would to distinguish between VR and AR. These are two different problems for those platforms, and there are a third set of problems or challenges which are common to both platforms. So for VR, for example, it's about creating a reality that actually replaces your current reality. So anything about rendering, quick rendering of 360 environment and stuff like that. And of course, control and other stuff. In AR is about positioning and understanding the area around you. Whoever saw the X-ray game that HoloLens showed last week in one of the demos, really impressive to show how they positioned the aliens coming from the wall and understanding there was a sofa on the stage traveling around. So understanding the surface, of course, user interface, gesture, and so on. And there are a third group which is common for both platforms. And from this, it's everything about maturing a new platform. We saw that happening in mobile phone. We saw that happening with PCs before and tablets. And that's things like battery life. That's things about really understanding where your head is tracking and where your eyes are looking at. So some problems are unique to one platform, but would be matured, and others which are common. I think all companies are working on solving problems.
I just want to add to this. I think it's a very good distinction between the AR and VR, totally different things. And also within those, of course, we have different segments of different kind of problems. But one of the major thing to solve is how you control the element of interaction of the user with the content itself. Okay, because if you have, for example, free hands, you can do basically everything. You can touch everything, you can knock everything, everything is measured. So, reality is designed in a way that every piece of interaction results in something to the user. You get an immediate reward for everything you do. So it's a new level, a new type of content that should be developed, that the content will be reactive and everything has to be modeled around, even the sound. If I'm knocking here, okay, in a certain strength, it has to generate a total different sound. So it's very difficult, even from for a game making perspective, to actually address all those different level, unexpected level of possible interaction of the user, and you have to go to the storytelling, as a guy mentioned, to try and see how you can direct the attention of the user to generate specific type of action, as opposed to animate everything, basically.
Understood.
So to have a much more smarter understanding of content and visual object, it's a new science, basically.
The biggest challenge, though, that I see is actually putting the headset on people's face. So I don't know how many actual people tried that, but I think, you know, when we look at this coming, 2016 as a major year for VR, the biggest marketing, the biggest effort is to motivate, all of us, to put the headset on to try it for the first time.
It's amazing how quickly 20 minutes actually fly by. Quickly probing on that before we wrap up the panel, AR versus VR. I know both of you guys are working heavily in the VR space, but overall, which one holds better promise? It sounds like Microsoft is focusing a lot more on AR, and then all these other companies, Google has their feet in both camps, and then what's bigger?
I'm a huge believer in AR. I think the opportunity there is more down the road. There are a lot of more challenges, and VR is just happening now. AR and down the road, I believe, 5 and probably 10 years from now, they will merge.
I think VR is, and I agree with Guy, VR is closer, and it will be used more for, in my view, for entertainment, because you can get and be in another place and in the middle of the jungle, or having part of some experience that you are not part of. AR involving many more technology challenges by combining virtual things into the real world, and therefore it will take longer, but have more variety of use cases, in my view.
So I think they have to merge eventually. So what is VR basically? VR is, and Guy mentioned before, you want to utilize the actual physical world and insert it to the VR to create all the great experience of the haptic, etc. For the AR, you have to have the virtual information, overlay the virtual object, understanding the environment, and then overlay the virtual object in a right context. So it's basically, it's very similar problems. It's only what is in the background, what is in the foreground. This is the big question. In terms of the use case, so I think, yeah, AR holds a lot of, let's say, for the consumer, attaching the experience to the physical world, walking around and have some information overlaid, and all the experiences that also Google Glasses introduced, and we saw some of them. So it holds a great promise for the consumer, but I think eventually they will merge, and we'll see both of them coexist in the coming years.
Well, thank you very much for the insights. Unless you guys want to consume your lunch in virtual reality, we need to wrap up now, and I'll have to ask my other 20 questions at another conference. Let's put our hands together for the panelists. Thank you very much.